Welcome to Own Your Essence, the podcast where healing meets empowerment. We're your host
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille, two psychic mediums and a life coach specializing in grief, trauma, and toxic relationship recovery. This is a space for deep conversations, powerful transformations, and real, raw healing.
Each week, we'll explore topics ranging from the metaphysical to emotional grief, addiction, mental health, spiritual wellness, and self discovery. Through interviews and personal insights, we aim to spread awareness, foster connection, and support you. You're in the right place if you're ready to set boundaries, reclaim your confidence, and step into your true power. Let's own your essence together.
Podcast disclaimer. The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical, psychological, or legal advice. If you need medical or mental health support, please contact a qualified healthcare provider. This podcast also contains explicit language and discussions on sensitive topics, including but not limited to abuse, trauma, addiction, and mental health struggles. Listener discretion is advised, as some content may be triggering or not suitable for younger audiences. By continuing to listen, you acknowledge and accept these terms. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. We are your hosts,
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille. And Lee is going to read our next guest introduction. And I'm looking forward to connecting with her. It's been a while, so I'm excited to catch up with this sweet lady.
Yes, so we have Elicia Raprager today. And Elicia is an author, an artist, a happiness coach, and a podcaster. So we're both very excited to have her on with us today.
Yes, 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 yes. Let's see. There you are.
Hi.
Hey, lady.
Hello.
So
Hi.
Lee had a chance to give you a brief introduction. But if you would like to go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and like what you're doing, maybe we can start there. And I think that Lee has some questions for you too.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on here today. I would just like to let everyone know that I am not clinical. I'm speaking from my own experience and what I've learned in counseling and just general reading on websites, and workbooks. So anything that I'm not saying as a professional, but just as someone who is a mental health enthusiast and wants to be a support. And I'm just happy to be here.
Perfect. So there's your disclaimer, folks. Got it. Okay.
Amazing. So thank you for being here, Elicia. So you actually, I kind of want to start here, if that's okay. You actually have a book which is called Share a Smile, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you want to tell the audience a little bit about your book and what that entails um, and all of that?
Sure. Thanks so much, Lee. My book, Share a Smile, Thriving in Life and Treatment, is a book that I wrote to tell people about my journey with mental health. It covers stuff on major depressive disorder, panic disorder, general anxiety disorder, and even PTSD nightmares. And there's some humor sprinkled in. I'm a socially awkward person with some humor, so that will come through. There's also journal prompts in there because journaling is one of the tools that has been very effective for me. So I made sure to include that. And there are instances where I've had a lot of growth since writing the book. So there are things that I said that I had not experienced or that I didn't do that I have completed. So, a couple spoilers for you. I went back to school and I finished my bachelor's degree. Um, I overcame my fear of surgery and I had my extra toe removed. I was born with an extra toe, and that's just one of those things that made me me. So I got that removed. And I also said that I hadn't tried tapping for the emotional freedom technique. And I actually did a activity, like a challenge with Melissa Kim Corder, where I got to experience her tapping. So that is another one of the ways I've grown since writing my book.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And
Thank you.
I love your gift too. So that was cool. Go ahead, April. Yeah.
I was gonna say I have a copy of your book, and I remember I had purchased it a couple years ago, and I remember loving the little journal prompts that you had in there because it's like a book and a workbook all together. It
Yeah.
shares your story, but it does give you like little workbook prompts and things to work through, and I really love that.
Thank you so much. I was trying
Absolutely.
to think of what would be helpful for people.
Yeah. But I like the way it was done in such a way that it even inspired me to be like, you know what? When I do a book, I need to include workbook with it. Like this is such a great format.
That makes me so happy, April. Yes, do it.
Yes. I'm planning on it, girl, planning on it.
It's a good way, I think, to help process some of the energy and integrate everything too, is having some sort of
Mhm.
a work. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I was actually on your Instagram, Alicia, the other night, just
Mhm.
kind of checking out everything about you and your magic. And
Thanks.
there was this post that you had made, I don't know how long ago it was, but it really resonated with me, where you're talking about how it was about self-care. And I think you were actually taking it from a portion of your book. If I remember correctly, chapter 8, but don't quote me on that.
Yes, you have
But
that right.
Okay, cool. So you're talking about self-care and how self-care isn't always just bubble baths and things like
Mhm.
that, which I totally resonate with because people that I work with and things like that, I'll tell them that all the time, and I'll say like a warm bath or something can be a great way. I'm not trying to knock that. Like it can be a great way to kind of bring
Right.
our nervous system back into a state of centeredness. And sometimes that's just what we need. But self-care as a whole and an overarching theme, I think, is something that is much different. So I would love to hear your take on what self-care looks like to you.
Thank you so much. And that makes me happy that you resonate with that. It's always good to hear. So self-care can be in just so many forms, but just taking care of yourself in the most basic ways is a way to care for your well-being and your mental health, making sure that you're getting enough fruits and veggies. That's something that has been big for me recently because I was a very picky eater and I would be like, oh, those peas, push those to the side and no one's going to notice. But as I've dealt with various chronic conditions, I've learned how essential those are for your energy levels. And when you're dealing with depression and anxiety and chronic conditions, your energy is so impactful when it comes to your mood and how you feel about yourself and if you want to be with other people. So self-care, another way is your physical health, making sure you're getting a little bit of movement, um, going outside, just checking in on your wellness and doing meditations, hanging out with a close friend or family member, and just feeling good being in that person's presence. There's so much more to it, but yes, I feel that a lot of people hear self-care and they're like, oh, it's a bubble bath, it's a facial. And it's like, well, there's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also I have a thought because as you were talking about that, self-care is so different for each individual. And I had a
Yes.
moment, what was this, a couple years ago. Um, and my son, my older son, I guess he's At the time, he might have been 20. He came in one day and he was having a day. And he's
Oh,
some background, he's ADHD, he's got some neurodivergences going on. But he came in one day and he goes, Mom, I just don't want to eat all your healthy stuff. Just leave me alone. Let me eat my fucking chips and my chocolate and my stupid junk. And I realized in that moment that was his form of self-care that day. And that was okay.
mhm.
Because, as parents or, influencers in general, we want to see people caring for their body, but that doesn't always mean it looks the same. That day for him, caring for his body meant he needed to eat like trash. And because he's ADHD, he was probably intuitively looking for stimulants to wind his body down. And I
Yeah.
had to respect that. I had to sit with that and go, wow, it really does look different for everyone. And there's so many factors that play into that.
What a considerate way of you to acknowledge how your son was feeling and realizing that was what he needed at that time.
Yeah, like who am I to take that away
Mhm.
and be like, no, go eat some potatoes and a steak. And also, like even when I was little, I was really not a fan of milk and French fries. And as I got older, I realized I was allergic to both. I was allergic to
Oh,
potatoes and milk. And so there was intuitive eating happening just as a child. And most parents are going to be like, oh, eat healthy and push things down our throat. But there's a level of inner knowing happening that we might not even understand yet.
yeah. When you said French fries and milk, it made me think of like dipping French fries in a Frosty or like a chocolate shake.
Like,
And
yeah,
I was
I've
like, I
seen
don't know
people do
why my
that.
mind went there.
Yeah, no, I've seen people do the Wendy's chocolate frosty with yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that happen. I can't wrap my head around that, but I've seen it happen
Yeah, so my mind was just like, that's so interesting. Did people want you to eat that? I'm like, oh, you're probably talking about separately because I
separately.
know the
Yeah.
gut, all of the gut journey that you've had trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
correct your own digestive system.
Yeah, it's madhouse, madhouse. But yeah, that's kind of where my mind went when you're talking about self-care. And I'm like, oh yeah, and like it really does show up so different for each individual, and there's so many ways, just so many opportunities for um individual expression there.
Yeah, thank you for
I,
sharing.
I love that. And I do agree, with what April's saying too, that sometimes we just need to be in our own space and kind of process through in whatever way that, resonates with us in the moment. Um, Uh, and I will say on the other end of you mentioning food and everything, do not take this as medical advice, anyone. I'm not a medical professional, but there is research on, how even like things like B vitamins correlate to, if we have a drastic depletion in B vitamins, it can, in serious cases, even turn into, psychosis and things like that. So
Hmm.
these things absolutely do affect our mental health. And there's a lot of research, I think even newer research, about circadian rhythms and how that
Hmm.
affects,
Oh,
our moods.
yes.
Um, so I absolutely, resonate with what you're saying. I did want to, I had a few more things that I was kind of curious about, so I kind of want to pivot a little bit, still on the topic of your book.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
so, yeah, of course. So I believe it was on Instagram. You had a post that really struck me. And I think it was a little excerpt of your book. It was in like a picture form, but there was like a
Mhm.
little excerpt. And it said, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't remember exactly, but it said something to the effect of like how you were happy in your personal life, with your relationship. Like, you had the job, you had the all the things that, we're kind of told that maybe we should have to attain happiness, right?
Yeah.
And the last line I think read, "How could I be depressed?" And
Mhm.
it really struck me. Am I getting that right, by the way? Before I move on, I want to
You
make sure that
are.
that's
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, so it really struck me, number one, I think, because it's so, I think, commonplace experience in our world and in our society that, we are kind of given this idea that, like, once you attain or achieve this thing, you'll be happy and everything else falls into place. Once you have the house and the
Mhm.
degree and the kids and I think so many people get to that point and realize, oh God, this is not what I thought that it was going to be. Like, why aren't I happy?
Mhm.
Um, and so that really stuck with me. And I was wondering if you're comfortable, if you could speak to your experience with that, like getting to that place where it was like, I have the things, I should be happy. How am I depressed?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so most people probably had no idea that I had depression until it got out of control because I didn't even know. It's not something that you learn in school. It's not something that you're taught by your family. And I would be smiling, I would be laughing. But when I was alone, often tears would come, or I would get stuck in a place and the intrusive thoughts would come, and I couldn't free myself from those. And I had this moment happen when I was working, and they sent me to the emergency room with my friend who I was working with at the time. And they let my husband know that I was there, and they thought that I had a heart attack because I had the chest pain. I stopped speaking. I actually slid out of my chair, and I was having a hard time breathing. So when I was admitted, just for observation, this happened twice, and I finally went and saw my primary care physician because they're like, "Girl, you need counseling. You need something. Like something is going on." And it was hard to admit because I had just been married for 2 years at the time. I just got, your big girl job in the office, and I had good relationships with my friends and my family. And I was just like, why is this happening? And when I spoke with my primary care physician, I was fine when I went in the office. And when it got quiet and she asked me to start thinking, it was that little bit of quiet that I had where I just broke down, and I opened up to her, and I didn't even realize what I was saying. And she was like, I think you have severe depression. She's like, but I'm going to help you. And that's when I listened because there was no way that I thought I had depression.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for sharing. And
Sure.
I think what you said is important too. That's not I mean, maybe now we're moving into a place where it's being talked about in the awareness a bit.
Yeah.
But even like, 10, 15 years ago, I don't remember as many conversations happening around this. So I think
Mhm.
it's important to have in the awareness that because, like you said, it isn't always talked about. And some people don't even understand, like, well, what does that look like? What do you mean I have depression? I have the job and I have the car and I have, whatever it is
Right.
that we're kind of told, should make us happy. Um, so I think that's why that really struck me. Did you have anything you wanted to add, by the way, April, before I
Yeah,
keep
I
talking?
do. I do actually. First of all, I admire your courage and in the vulnerability of sharing that story and being able
Yeah.
to be of service for others that are moving through that too, by writing your book and putting your stories out there. It's bravery, girl. And
Thank you.
and I can relate to your journey because there was a time in my life where I had also accomplished something very similar. I was married, I had my third child on the way. We had our cute little family, and it was a blended family, but it was still perfect and cute nonetheless. And it was, it was what I thought we're going to check off the boxes and bring me the happiness, right? Like
Yeah.
this is how we're programmed, right? You've got the traditional
Mhm.
upbringing and you do the thing, you become a wife, you become a mom and you do the things and that's your fairy tale ending, right? So I had all these things and I realized that I was miserable. Like I
Mm.
felt like something was always wrong, something was always missing. I was seeking something so much bigger, and this couldn't have been it. And so I can hold a lot of empathy for that story that you share because I've been in those exact same shoes. Like, what the fuck is going on? What is happening?
Yeah.
And you're right. We were young, right? So we didn't have any warnings or education or awareness, like what's anxiety look like? What's depression? We don't even know what those are. They're not even in our wheelhouse at those times. So
Exactly.
we definitely don't know what to look for. And are we even looking for something to begin with? Like, so it just totally just knocks you on your ass out of the blue. And then, oh shit, I'm left to pick up the pieces. How do I even start this? So it's, yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely um can share in that mindset for sure.
Thank you. And when you write your book, you will be doing something similar for those who need it. So sharing here is a great start for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
You're
lady.
welcome.
I I also something else you said just now sparked my attention when you were sharing that story, Alicia, about how there was this moment, I think you said, of silence, and then all of a sudden it was like all these things kind of surfaced. And I find that so relatable. I think
Mhm.
even just in the collective experience that we have, because I think we're not really taught to kind of be in silence with ourselves. We're not really taught to kind of sit with ourselves or witness ourselves in a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, so, when a lot of people, I think, experience myself in the past included, when we get into that space, then everything that kind of we've been pushing away or
Hmm.
not meeting in a certain way kind of comes up. And I would be curious how now you feel that you are with that and how you've kind of um, brought yourself to be able to navigate that more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. So I have a wonderful support system, and I'm very thankful for that. I know not everybody can rely on that, and they need to use external resources
Mhm.
more. Um, but silence is something that used to scare me. I had a lot of fear. Actually, I also wrote about this, that fear used to control my life. And I didn't know where it came from. Although I will call out my mom for a moment. My apologies. She's lived through some certain experiences that made her more highly aware of situations that can happen.
Mm.
So I was aware of those situations at a young age and prepared for these things. And I think that may be part of the reason that brought on the fear. Also, my brother being a master of terror when we were younger, but he's a big protector now. Um,
Fucking
and
brothers.
yeah, I love him so much
For
though. And he's a
sure.
wonderful dad now too. Um, But if I was home alone and I didn't have music on or TV in the background, I would get audio hallucinations, which I later realized is from idiopathic hypersomnia. So I wasn't on medication for that at the time, and I would feel more sleepy and have more brain fog. So those audio hallucinations would add to the anxiety. But now I've learned that silence is a good way to unplug and just let your thoughts kind of filter through and whatever emotions you're having. And it's just a good way to just calm and taking a moment to understand what's going on inside. Um, so silence is no longer the enemy.
Yeah.
I would like to add to that. Silence is definitely not the enemy, and self-inventory is absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
And I would agree. So, Lee, I think you mentioned something, you were talking about, you know, the difference between, I guess, between um, people having comfort and stillness, right? And the thing that I think came up for me was when I was little, and maybe a lot of people can share in this, but even at the age of 4, Mom, I'm bored. Well, you're bored. Let me give you 10 fucking things to do so you're not bored and in my face, right? Like boredom and stillness
Mhm.
was not encouraged from a very, very young age. It was like, oh, cool. Well, then clean your room and do this and do the dishes and do all the things that we have to do. I'm like 4, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that learning those things aren't important, but what I am saying is I think I think that there was a lot of shame in my life about stillness. If you're
Mm.
still, it's because you're lazy. If you're still, it's because you're being unproductive. If you're still, it's
Mhm.
this. So we grow up thinking that stillness is such a bad thing. And then our body screams at us for it for so long that when we finally sit, it kicks our fucking ass because it's years of built up work that needs to be done.
I would
Yeah.
say you nailed that.
It's like just like knock you on your butt for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And mindfulness and one thing at a time is
Yeah.
what my counselor drilled into my head repeatedly. And it was just like I had to hear it repeatedly and do it repeatedly until I felt like the change, till I felt the effectiveness.
Yeah. Well, and I can even tell, like, if I haven't had enough stillness or recharge time to take inventory and do all the things necessary, I become a fucking monster. And
Oh.
I'm bad enough as it is. So I'm like, listen, I have to sit still or else I'm going to rip people's faces off. Believe me, like I will get cranky. So yeah, I'm at that place where I know better now, like I have to give myself the times out.
I meant to send you something that a friend sent to me. I'll have to send it to you afterward because you fit the meme perfectly.
Oh, perfect.
And you know the brass knuckles that you can
Oh,
wear?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Someone sent that to me and it has like these crystals on the end and it said when you're a spiritual goddess but you that you need to like choke out someone or something.
Oh, yeah.
It was something goofy and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so April.
Yeah, I probably fit the mold for that.
That's too funny. Um,
uh,
yeah, I agree though with what Ava, I second that, that
mhm.
self-inventory and sitting with ourselves is so important. So so it's wonderful to hear how you've been able to kind of navigate that journey. Um, there was also there was one other post. I made little notes of certain posts of yours that
I love that you did this.
yeah. Um uh, that I made a mental note of. That was it was speaking to um, it said something to the effect of like when I used to have a bad day, I would
Mhm.
fear letting other people down, and then you spoke to now how it really is again I'm paraphrasing, but like a marker of strength to be able to. Um, and I really love that so much because I know in my personal experience, like I, for so long in my life, felt responsible for everyone else's emotions, and
Yeah.
I think there was energetic things going on there with me too, and also just
Mhm.
mental and emotional, and but so very much similar to you though, whenever I was having a bad day, I felt like I could not share that with somebody because, well, then they're going to get upset, and then I don't want them to be upset, and it took me a while to realize that, like, first of all, there is strength in saying, like, hey, listen, I'm having a challenging day, are you able to hold space for that, or whatever it is? And also you're giving the other person the opportunity to respond in the way that they feel that they need to respond. And otherwise, I realize now you're kind of taking that away from them if you're just kind of assuming like, oh, well, they don't want to hear, they're going to feel bad. Um,
Yeah.
but I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well, like how that has transformed for you.
Thank you. And kudos to you for realizing that as well and just being that caring person that you are and having empathy because it's not easy when it comes naturally for you. You can just it can be such an emotional burden.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I have gone through so many transformations, I feel, and I've made so many efforts to try to be that person that I want to be online. And then I pull back when I need to, or I change things up and I get self-conscious. So that post about used to have a bad day was one of the ways that I used to feel where, okay, I can't show this because I'm going to let someone down because they're looking to me to be that role model. And then it became, well, people need to know that life isn't perfect. And even though I seem to have it together, I still have bad days. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has their stuff together all the time. And I know that this is going to help someone because if I see that, it helps me and it helps me relate to them. And when there's more people just being open about how they're feeling, it just makes it more normal. So they're like, yeah, why don't I remember? Yeah, we're working full time. We're trying to keep up with our family and friends. We're achieving our dreams in the background and taking on these other projects. It's like, no wonder we can't be happy-go-lucky 24/7. We have so many responsibilities and so many hats that we wear, and that is something that I went through again because I, when I wrote my book and I started getting invitations to speak with people about it, they'd be like, girl, you're a life coach already. Just go do the thing. It's like, I am. And I, I had such a stigma around it because I knew that there are people that didn't have the good intentions that comes with life coaching and being there for someone genuinely. And people just don't understand what it is. So I felt like if I wasn't my best, how could I help people in that matter? So I pulled back a lot. And now it's like, okay, I've gone through all of this. I've learned so much. I've worked with others. I've had new life experiences and I've done mentoring. It's like, I'm ready to try this again. And it's like, I get a little bit further each time. And that's just something that has changed for me. And when I had a bad day, I used to, and now I do that. I apologize if that was such a long explanation, but there was just so much to it.
Yeah, no apologies necessary. I love that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And April, did you want to comment, or did you have something
Yeah,
to
I
comment?
mean, I feel like also some of that the times that you're talking about pulling back and coming, a little bit of the back and forth. I feel like those are also you intuitively honoring the sacred pause that has to happen during integration phase, right? We have
Oh,
Right.
yes.
And so we have these moments
Mhm.
of transformation and you're saying your body's like, okay, I have some work to do to kind of like burst through these seams and it's
Mhm.
that full on integration phase so you can come back different. And so that's what I was hearing. I was hearing, oh, okay, she's like honoring the sacred pause. She's doing, I love that. I absolutely love that because a lot of people don't really understand that. And then they get down on themselves because why can't I be consistent or why can't I what that is consistent. You're
Yeah.
honoring your growing phases. It's growing pains sometimes, but you're still honoring the fact that you need the space to take up the space to do that. So I love that.
Thank
Um,
you. That feels
yeah.
very good and reassuring.
I did have another question for you. Shift gears a little bit, but what would you say? I know that you have a lot of fun hobbies. I know this about you.
Yeah.
Um, but I would love if you could share with our listeners like the cool hobbies that you have. I know that these are major forms of self-care for you too. So I would love to hear a little bit about your hobbies and how important those are to you in your healing journey.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And in fact, I was trying to get a man's opinion on mental health just because I've been asked about this a few times, and there's so little that I know because people aren't often open about it. So, about 30 minutes before going live with you, I asked a male friend, and he said Tai Chi and hobbies has helped him tremendously
Mhm.
and allowed him to find himself, distract himself, and just feel better when they realize that they're feeling lost again or going into a dark space.
Mhm.
So I'm tying this back into the hobbies because RC drift is a hobby of mine for the last 2 years now that I do with my husband. And it is therapeutic. It really feels it feels cathartic because you're around people who are all in a very good mood and happy to be driving. And your mind is just on getting those zones, getting those nice smooth drifts, and then maybe having pizza afterward with your friends while you're drifting. I'm also an artist, so I have some artwork behind me,
You're
and
such a great artist too.
thank you so much. I get that from my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen some of her artwork too. You've shared some of that, and you guys are very
Yeah,
talented. I will
thank
say
you.
real quick, my the RC drift thing, it must be a thing because my son and my daughter-in-law and my daughter, they're all into that. So like there's a hobby shop
Cool.
here in Leander and they soup up their expensive RC car and they are expensive. Like it's an expensive
Hmm.
hobby for sure. But they
Yeah,
have such a blast with their friends doing stuff like that. And we are a car family, so like even the girls in
likely.
my family are like um knowledgeable when it comes to mechanics and cars and all the things. So
Mhm.
it's definitely a fun hobby for sure. I see my kids get a lot of joy out of that.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Did you say that was Leander's?
Yeah,
Leander?
Leander, Texas.
Leander,
Yeah,
Texas.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because we go to numerous events where people show up from all kinds of tracks.
Hmm.
Um, and I know I've met someone from Kansas and someone from Texas,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are kind of in the Midwest, like we are. Um, yeah, I also enjoy writing, of course. I've really been into reading. Sometimes journaling just doesn't come to me. It feels forced. And usually, if that's the case, then I need to do something else. So I'll be reading and it will click that something was bothering me, or that's my solution right there, what I just read, or it reminds me of somebody where we were having a conversation and I couldn't find the right words. But after reading, I had that calming time and it just clicked that I knew what I wanted to say to that person in that moment. Um, I also like going to conventions when I can, Renaissance, Origins, Game Fair. Um, I went to a KaiCon with Janae,
Wow.
and that was fun. I finally got to meet her outside of the internet world. I took up gardening for a while, and I was not good at it, so my garden needs an overhaul and some serious help. And I want
Yeah,
to learn to play the piano.
I aspire to do the green thumb thing and I'm not good. I feel like I kill everything, so I just try not to take it on anymore.
Now, are you good with inside plants though? Because sometimes
No,
it's
I'm
one or
not
the
good with
other.
any plants.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I somehow I was gifted a cactus twice in the last couple years, and I was told they're the easiest plant to take care of, and I still killed those. So I'm like done killing innocent plants. I'm like, all right, well, cool. This is just not for me, at least not right now. So
Yeah, I've had no luck with succulents, so I understand. I love them, but they don't like to live with me.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you actually have cats, so you have little pets, don't you?
I have one 14 and a half year old
Oh
girl,
yeah, she's so
Nala.
pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, she's my little sweetheart, although she can be sour at times. But yes, you definitely need to make sure that whatever you're bringing into your home is not toxic to your pets.
Yeah, Lee has a cat too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's about that age, I think, actually, around
Oh,
14
really?
and a half, 15. Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to do the math. I got her when she was like 7 or so, but yeah,
Oh,
same thing, very sweet, but can be very sassy.
yeah.
Oh, she can be sassy.
Yeah,
She can be really sassy.
she can. Um,
And they can
uh,
also sense our mood changes too, and if we're sick. So,
Yeah.
no,
mhm.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably a good thing I don't have any cats around because that'd be like a fucking mood ring flying off the handle all the time.
Um,
Oh,
I did just to shift for a second, I did have one last thing that I was curious about, Alicia. Um, so I believe again this was on Instagram, but it was something to the effect of how you I don't know when this was, so if it wasn't recently, forgive me, but
no
um
problem.
I think recently, maybe, I don't know. But there was a diagnosis of some sleep disorder, correct? That you're
Yes.
okay. And what struck me about you speaking towards that was that you were saying, I was that you were so afraid to even get it checked out for like the longest time. I think you said like 5 years or something. And
Yeah.
I couldn't help but almost laugh a bit because it's such a page
Mhm.
out of my book where I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
that feels like me. And I
Mhm.
think we all kind of have those moments, but where fear kind of gets in the way, and we're like, well, I don't really want to look at that.
Yeah.
But I was curious about that and that piece for you, and also what you might tell somebody else who's like struggling with, fear around whatever it is, but fear around making
Yeah.
some sort of a decision, and preventing themselves from moving forward with something.
Yeah. Great question. And I feel for you since you've gone through that because it just wreaks havoc. I mean, just wondering the if, the why.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I felt so much better when I got a diagnosis. Now, there weren't as many answers that I would like because it is rare and not well researched, not well funded. There are doctors who are arguing to fund more research, and there are other doctors who are saying, this isn't real, just move on, you're wasting time and money.
Mm,
But since I was about 8 or 9 years old, I have had what my doctor has coined chronic nightmares or PTSD nightmares. And this is another thing where that reoccurring fear comes in. And I sleptwalk a few times, even as an adult. I have talked in my sleep. I used to be violent in my sleep because I would be defending myself in my dreams, and my husband would have to be defending himself against me. Poor guy. Thankfully, that's gotten a lot better. Anyway, a doctor wanted me to have a sleep study for the longest time, and we looked at doing one at home, which I found out is actually it monitors less, so it's less effective if you do one at home. So I had two done at a facility, and they also did a nap study because they suspected possible narcolepsy and found out I have idiopathic hypersomnia, which is something that I do not experience as far to the degree that some do. And I'm so thankful for that because some people will sleep for like 7 days and then need to go get an IV to rehydrate. But me, I got sleepy or I was hard to wake. But I was so nervous to find this out and to be hooked up and to sleep without someone next to me in a room that I was unfamiliar with and worried that I was going to sleepwalk while connected to everything. And then it was so easy. I just slept. And so it's like just think about how much better you might feel if you're no longer wondering what's going on. The other thing was it kept being brought up that because I had trouble with my memory, that I might have something going on with my brain, and that's also what I wanted to look at. But that is also something that comes with idiopathic hypersomnia because your brain's not getting that REM sleep that it needs. So you have a harder time restoring. And for a while, I was even nervous to be speaking in front of people because I would have periods of time where the words just fall out of my head. And I'm just struggling to put a sentence together. So, yes, think about it, talk with people, just get that support, start imagining yourself doing it, making a plan, and let that fear go away.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I heard something a few years ago that I thought was resonant, where it was something to the effect of like you can be afraid and still do it anyway, you know.
Hmm.
Yes.
I think that's so important because you know, like I was saying, I think there have been a lot of things for myself, like you, where fear has kind of gotten in the way, and it's like, oh, I don't wanna go over there and figure out. But once we move through it and we realize that, we're on the other side of it and we can look back in retrospect, there can be so much benefit and so much to experience on the other side of that fear. So I think it's,
Yes.
yeah,
Well, and
On the other side of fear. I like that.
yeah,
yeah.
and I think that sometimes it's almost for me personally, I've had to weigh the odds. Okay, if you've got two choices and you
Mhm.
don't like either one of them, like it's you pick the lesser of two evils, right? That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, well, cool. If it's going to be scary either way, I'd rather go into the scary unknown than stay in this miserable fear that I'm at right now.
Mhm.
Because it's cost so much and it's taken up so much space and all the things. And so those were the places where it's like, okay, well, the unknown is scary too. But then a lot
Yeah.
of times, like even though the unknown is so scary, it's only scary because it's unknown, because then you do it and it's so much easier than you ever even thought. And it works out so
Yeah.
much better. And then you realize, oh, look at what my stupid fucking fear did. It made this thing 20 times bigger than it needed to be. And that was stupid, right? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a challenge, like giving yourself the cheerleading talk, like we can do this.
That's a good way of saying it. The cheerleading talk.
Yeah,
Pep yourself up.
for sure.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I will say to what April said, I agree. And I think I know for myself that sometimes it can feel it's like a false sense of security being in the place that you're already in, where it's
Oh
like I'm
yeah.
really afraid to do
Hmm.
this, so I'm just not gonna, even though I'm in all this fear, I'm just not gonna
Hmm.
do it because this is where I'm comfortable. And I don't know what this looks like, but I know
Hmm.
what it looks like to be where I am now. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably I can't speak for everyone, but I think that's probably where some people might end up, getting stuck. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Because comfort can kind of shoot you in the foot. It really can.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I like what Alicia you said about, find the support and just, let yourself kind of navigate through it. And like
Hmm.
April said, you kind of, there's a tendency sometimes, at least for me personally, to look back and be like, that was nothing, like that was,
Right.
yeah. So,
Exactly. The sleep study. It was so simple.
yeah. Yeah. And now you have more information about yourself and how to help yourself in some way, which is so important. So,
Yeah. I keep saying I feel like I have to keep going through these various things because I in turn relay the information to others and try to support them. So
Yeah.
I don't
yeah.
want to keep going through stuff though. So if it can stop, that'd be great. I'll still just try to support you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like transformation more. Oh my God.
I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, lady, I wanted to see like where can you share where our guests can find you, like the easiest way to locate you?
Yeah. Thank you so much. And let me make sure I have this one right. Okay. So for those viewers that are on Facebook, I have a private Facebook group called Empowered Expressions with Elicia. So you can receive an invite or you can search that and request to be added. I have done workshops in there, and I've just made it more personable where I just share things that don't go on my Instagram or my Facebook. I also had Instagram that Lee brought up a few times, and it is my first and last name. So it's at Elicia Raprager. And then my website is www.eliciaraprager.com. And I have several blog posts on there, a link to my book and compilation books that I'm in, and a magazine, um, and also some of my artwork. And then you may know that Ghenet and I started a YouTube channel. So
Yes.
our handle is Ghenet Elicia.
Perfect.
Awesome. Love
Yeah.
that. And we'll have all your links in the show notes and everything too. But
Yeah, for sure. Lee, is there anything else that you want to wrap up with before we stop?
no, and we can edit this part out if we need to, but did you say something on the jot form, Alicia, of offering like a free session to someone who reaches out?
Oh,
Yes, yes, I
yeah.
did.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I'm glad that you brought that up, Lee. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So what does that entail? It's just if someone reaches out to you, or was it two
So if
people?
someone hears you
Two
like on the
people,
podcast or whatever, and
yes.
okay.
And they're
Okay.
interested in a free coaching session because I am coming back as a happiness coach, then please reach out and we can schedule our free session together, and hopefully it'll be great for the both of us.
Is this in exchange for like a review, or is it just for the value of having the experience? What is there?
The experience is great. If they
Okay.
want to leave a review, that is also welcome.
Okay. I love
Thank
that.
you.
I think that's actually
Mhm.
really cool. So,
Thank you.
listeners, somebody reach out to this lady. You will love working with her.
Yeah. Two of you
Thank
reach
you.
out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. I really appreciate your time today and for reaching out to me. It made my day. I was like, oh my goodness, how has it been 2 years? So
I
it's gonna be
know.
so much more frequent now.
Oh man, it's been a while. And thank you for coming on with us too. We've been really blessed having a lot of response to our new podcast adventure. So I'm very grateful, and I know Lee is too, for the people that are really supporting our journey. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And it was nice to talk with you, Lee, and I look forward to seeing all of these great episodes coming out.
Yeah, thank you. And speaking of that, once we get this, I think we go live next month. So once we have this
Awesome.
posted and put out there, we will let you know. But real
Wonderful.
quick, before we end this, I wanted to remind our listeners that if you want to reach us for any reason, you can email us at ownyouressence@gmail.com with any suggestions, topic ideas, if you want to be a guest, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, or if you just need to contact Lee and I for any other reason, feel free to send us a message. And I think that's it, guys. You guys ready to say goodbye?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, y'all. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on Own Your Essence. We're so grateful to our guests for sharing their wisdom and to you, our listeners, for being part of this journey towards healing and empowerment. If today's conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share this space with others who might need it. If you have any questions, topic ideas, want to be a guest, or would like to work with myself or April privately, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next episode.